Hello, and welcome to another installment of Goss Reads Goss, Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. We're up to Chapter 6, and if you have been following along, you'll recall that Roger is now en route to Mara and has spent some time with the crew and has taught them a little about cerulean biology and nectar gel. And oh, that's it. So we are reading Chapter 6, Menace. Oops, get it in there. Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. Chapter 6. Things become eventful. Mr. Roger? Roger's goggles indicate that the query is coming from below and to his left. As that is the direction he is slowly rotating, he waits a moment to answer. He sees Nourdam looking up at him from the grips, head cocked to one side. Yes, Nourdam, good watch to you. The third officer slowly drifts out of his field of view. Good watch to you, sir. She appears to wait until he is facing her again. Is everything all right, sir? Yes, he assures her, as she drifts out of his view again. All is well. She does not wait this time to ask. May I ask what you are doing, sir? I am painting an ode to gravity, Roger answers, showing her his canvas as she comes into view again. It's amazing how much you come to appreciate something when you don't have it anymore. He waits again for her to return to view. I find drifting on the tether like this gives me the illusion of a wider panorama, he explains finally. It helps me with my claustrophobia. I see, she says, before she leaps off down the hold. But by the way her head remains cocked to one side, however, Roger suspects she doesn't see. They are 20 days, or in the vernacular of the ship, 60 watches into their journey. Roger has been careful to limit his visits to the cockpit, not because he is not welcome, but because the scant changes he observes there are discouraging. Though Mara appears a little brighter to his eyes, it still appears a long way off. Mealtimes remain the high points for him. He has learned much about Mara and Mara and has related much of cerulean culture and society to the crew. But when these topics become exhausted, and even the nectar gel receives a less enthusiastic response, Roger resorts to regaling the crew with tales from his service with the Dread patrols. He is finishing the story of how Driftwood lost his limbs to a Dread when Lauderson observes. Those Dreads sound a lot like the strikes at home. Oh? Roger asks. You've not told me of strikes. What are those? No one sees strikes anymore, Nourdam says almost dismissively. Excuse me, ma'am, the crewman insists. It all depends on where you're talking about. The strikes are still fairly common in the more remote settlements. I'm afraid that's true, ma'am, Gatherdam says in support of her crewmate. I lost my grandfather to strikes. The topic brings what Roger considers an untoward somberness to the table, as sad as he was for Gatherdam's grandfather. Well, he says, trying to brighten the mood, it's not as if we're going to a remote settlement. Once again, the crew seems reluctant to meet his eyes. Actually, Burrowson says finally, we are. Peregrine wants to attract as little attention as possible. Oh, I see, Roger says, mildly surprised. I suppose you ought to tell me about those strikes, then. They are large, scaly-skinned ambush predators, Burrowson explains. They lurk in the grass and jump out suddenly to attack. A single strike can take a child. A group can kill an adult. They hunt in groups? Roger asks. Yes, occasionally, Burrowson replies. I don't know what we'd do if the Dreads hunted in groups, Roger observes in grim wonderment. We'll all be issued weapons, Burrowson assures the group. Peregrine is seeing to that. We need to keep our wits about us nonetheless, he adds. Oh, lovely, Gatherdam observes wryly. How am I supposed to sleep with that to look forward to? It's 60 watches off yet, Burrowson assures her gently. We'll be prepared by then. Yes, sir, she says, getting up to leave. Good watch all. Yes, good watch all. Roger says as the crew files out of the galley. He is once again alone. It is 2 days or 6 watches later when Roger is mildly surprised to see Lauterson and Gatherdam drift into his line of sight. "Good watch, Mr. Roger," Lauterson greets him. "We missed you at the watch change." "Ah, good watch, Lauterson. Gatherdam." The two drift out of his sight. "Yes, I didn't have an appetite." "Are you well, sir?" It is Gatherdam who speaks. "Yes, well enough, thank you. I'm sorry if I caused you concern." "Well, as long as you are well, sir," she assures him. "What are you working on?" He shows her the canvas as he drifts round again. "I call it Meditation on the Strike." "It looks terrifying, sir." "Thank you." "Will we see you at the next change of watch?" "Most likely, yes. I should have an appetite by then." "Good watch, then, sir." "Yes, good watch, sir," Lauterson echoes. "Good watch to you both as well." It is another 9 watches later when Roger permits himself a trip to the cockpit and a look at the stars. Burrowson and Naurdam are at the controls, and for the first time Mare Urba not only appears brighter, but bigger too. Movement high in the port side catches Roger's eye. "What's that, Burrowson? Is that another vessel?" Burrowson looks in the direction of Roger's gesture. "What's what, sir? I don't see anything." "There's an object out there, moving at great speed," Roger insists. Burrowson opens a panel above his head, which reveals a viewing screen. A small joystick attached to the bottom of the screen changes the view, and after Burrowson manipulates it for a few seconds, the object appears on the screen, greatly magnified. It looks to Roger like an old harpoon head, once used to hunt dreads on water. "Great floods and tunnel collapse," Burrowson evidently exclaims with agitation. "Naurdam, wake the captain. That's a Xenosian raiding vessel." Naurdam fairly flies out of the cockpit. "How in a nest of strikes did one get in so far?" Burrowson wonders bitterly. "It appears to be moving away from us, however obliquely," Roger notes. "Perhaps it hasn't spotted us yet. I'm cutting our engines." "Good lad," is the captain, looking somewhat tousled. "We should also go dark. Power everything down but the life support." The cockpit and the hold behind them blacken, which seems to make the stars outside even brighter. "There's another object out there," Roger announces. "It seems to be following the first one." "Strike scat," the captain curses. "A second one. Go ahead and risk the view screen, Burrowson. If there are 2 of them, we'll have to turn tail and run before they spot us and while we have the distance." Burrowson directs the view per Roger's instructions. There is indeed a second vessel rapidly closing on the first. It appears long and thin, like a needle. "An Aredian scout," the captain says with evident relief. "That means a cruiser can't be far behind." They watch as the scout closes on the Xenosian vessel. "Why don't they fire?" Burrowson asks in frustration. As if to answer, the Aredian scouting vessel discharges 3 points of light just as the Xenosian vessel cuts its engines and does a 180-degree pitch to face its pursuer, discharging a point of light of its own as it does so. The 3 bright points of light surround the Xenosian, and a split second later, they are all momentarily blinded by a larger and brighter flash. When their vision clears, they see the Aredian vessel rolling and pitching, engines cut, seemingly out of control. "They've taken a hit," Forgedam remarks. "Come on, ladies, get her righted, get her righted." The pitching slows and stops, but the vessel appears without power and continues to roll, although slowly. "Shouldn't we see if they need assistance?" Roger asks. "Yes, Mr. Roger, we should," the captain agrees resignedly. "Where's that cruiser?" The group scans the surroundings with their eyes while Burrowson uses the view screen, but there's no other vessel in sight. "Set an intercept course for the Aredian vessel, Burrowson, while I try to raise the Aredians." Forgedam dons a headset and adjusts the dial. "Aredian scout, this is Mare Urban freighter underway to Mare Urba. Do you require assistance?" She waits a moment and repeats the hail. "Aredian scout, this is Mare Urban freighter underway to Mare Urba. Do you require assistance?" There's a long pause as Forgedam listens intently. "Say again, Aredian scout." She listens again. "Roger that, Aredian scout. We are on intercept. Prepare for your evacuation." She takes off the headset. Make haste, Burrowson. Their hull has been breached and they have wounded. She turns to Naurdam. Have the crew prepare an area in the hold to receive wounded. Yes, ma'am. And Naurdam is gone. I don't suppose you know any Iredian, Burrowson? Forgedem asks, and not hopefully. No, ma'am. I know little. Very little. Didn't you just communicate with them just now? Roger asks. Yes, Forgedem replies, but that was through the transceiver. It recognizes certain words and translates them into code, which is then interpreted by the other transceiver. We won't be able to use that while they are aboard. She takes a second look at Roger. Will that device you're wearing work on Iredian? I honestly don't know. Show me your manifest, Forgedem commands. My what? Roger asks. My manifest? I don't have a manifest. It works on Iredian, Forgedem says, visibly pleased. Show me your manifest is the only Iredian I know. I'm sorry, Mr. Roger, but it seems you'll have to serve as our interpreter. There's nothing to be sorry for. I'm happy to help. The captain turned, paused, and turned back to Roger. What rank did you say you held in the Dreads? I was a skiff commander when I retired. Why? Didn't you say you were promoted to admiral when you retired? Well, yes, but that's the joke. All Dreads become admirals when they muster out. The Iredians don't need to know that, Mr. Roger. I suggest you introduce yourself as Admiral Roger of the Cerulean Dread Patrol. The Iredians are very much impressed by rank. But that would be deceitful. I have not seen duty for 100 years. Yes, Forgedem agrees thoughtfully. It is best to be truthful whenever possible. Introduce yourself as retired Admiral Roger. It will hardly matter to the Iredians, and you will not be lying. Why bring it up at all? Forgedem appears to think a moment. The Iredians are a principled and intelligent people who can be counted upon to act in accordance with the dictates of law and logic, which can make them a mite imperious, she says finally. They will, however, defer to someone of rank, particularly military rank. I think things will go more smoothly if our interpreter is an admiral. She turns to Burrowson. How long until intercept? We should be alongside in an hour, the first officer replies. Prepare a manifest for the Iredians, Captain orders, but don't show it to them unless they ask for it. Yes, ma'am. And that's an accurate manifest, Burrowson. Ma'am? What we carry is not strictly speaking contraband, Burrowson. If we act as if we are hiding something, the Iredians will keep looking. But if we have all in order, the Iredians will treat it as a routine check and send us on our way. I see, Captain. Will do. Thank you, Burrowson. Forgedem turns to Roger. So, Admiral, shall we see how the impromptu sick bay is coming along? She gestures for Roger to precede her. After you, sir. Will the Iredians really inspect your cargo when you are rescuing them? Roger asks as they move down the hold. Probably not, Forgedem admits. The Iredians are sticklers for procedures, but they are not without a sense of propriety or gratitude. I just like to be prepared. The two move down the hold to find the crew setting up platforms similar to the one in Roger's cabin. How many wounded are there, Captain? Naurdam asks when they arrive. They didn't say, Forgedem replies. The crew complement on a scout is 4. The 4 you have set up should suffice. Have you gathered our medical supplies? Yes, ma'am, the third officer says, gesturing to a container secured near the platforms. Such as they are. Thank you, Naurdam, the captain replies. With any luck, the Iredians will have some of their own. She leads Roger to a larger, more secure-looking door off the hold. This is the airlock. Once Burroughs and I dock with the scout, the Iredians will come in through here. I will need to be in the cockpit with Burrowson to control the vessel, so the hold is yours, Admiral. I will do my best to make them welcome. I'm sure you will, she says dryly before leaping back along the grips to the cockpit. Roger looked back down the hold to the crew, who were busying themselves by fussing unnecessarily with straps and the padded platforms. The content of the captain's remarks indicated that the Iredians were nothing to fear, but the captain's attitude and that of the crew suggested otherwise. The hour passes in an eternity as Roger and the crew hold their collective breaths, figuratively speaking, of course. A jolt, accompanied by the notice of a loud clunk on Roger's goggles, finally indicates that the scout has docked, and Roger turns to face the airlock door. More notices indicate machinery working, some additional clanks, and the door slides open. Commander Slither of the Iredian Patrol requesting permission to board. A tall Iredian with a four-screen uniform announces as the door opens. Retired Admiral of the Cerulean Dread Patrol grants you permission, Commander. At the word Admiral, the Iredian assumed an even greater height, and a small scarlet crest rose on its head. It completes its salute by touching its left hand to its right shoulder. Be at your ease, Commander, Roger says impatiently. Now's no time for ceremony. Evacuate your crew. Yes, sir. The Iredian salutes again and makes way for two other Iredians to carry a third on a litter. We have prepared a makeshift sick bay in the aft portion of the hold, Roger says, waving them in that direction. I'm afraid our medical supplies are scant, but you are welcome to whatever you can use. Roger watches in admiration as the Iredians easily move down the hold, even while supporting the litter. He picks his way behind, and by the time he reaches the platforms, the wounded Iredian is strapped into one of them. Is your crew member wounded badly? Roger asks the commander. She is likely to live, the Iredian replies. All we had on board were pain relievers and light wound dressings. She requires a heavier dressing if she She requires a heavier dressing if she is to recover quickly. Now, madame, Roger addresses the Mare Urban, are there any bandage materials on those medical supplies? I believe so, yes, sir, she answers and removes the bandages from the container. The wound is contaminated, the Iredian officer reports. Have you any antimicrobial dressing? Roger addresses Naurdan. The commander wants to know if we have any antiseptic dressing. No, sir, we don't. Roger ponders this a moment. In the dreads, we would pack a bad wound with bandages soaked in seawater, he muses aloud. Lauderson, take an empty drinking water flask to my cabin. Inside the middle container, there you will find a smaller container. Open that and fill the flask about 1/4 full of the salt you find in there, and then fill the rest with water. Then bring it here. Yes, sir! Lauderson leaps away with even more alacrity than the urgency of the situation warrants. Roger turns to the Iredian commander and explains his plans. The commander blinks once. Understood, the Iredian replies. Thank you, sir. Roger takes the opportunity to examine the other two Iredians. Like the commander, they wear four-screen uniforms, although the insignia on their right thoraxes are simpler. Even in zero gravity, they manage to hold themselves erect. The wounded Iredian appears to be unconscious, as her eyes are closed and she appears not to move. Lauderson returns and quickly gives the flask to Roger and hastily withdraws, almost flinching as he passes the Iredians. Roger prepares the new dressing and carefully removes the old. The Iredian appears to have been badly burned across her thorax, and not for the first time Roger wonders how people without shells and carapaces get through life without constant injury. He applies the new dressing carefully. The Iredian commander watches the procedure with a keen but reserved interest. The Admiral has obviously seen his share of wounds, it observes dryly. More than my share, Commander, Roger replies just as dryly. More than my share, I assure you. Roger makes a final inspection of his work. Satisfied, he turns again to the commander. Can we offer you food or water? Water would be most welcome, the commander replies. Unfortunately, we are out of rations, and I fear you would not have any suitable for our species. Your people eat nectar gel, do they not? Of course, but only on very special occasions. There can be no more special occasion than escaping with your lives from a dying vessel, Roger asserts. Lauderson, please be kind enough to return to my cabin and fetch some nectar gel for our guests. It is in the container on the left of the one with the salt. Gatherdam, please fetch full water flasks for our guests. Yes, sir, the two respond simultaneously and flee with evident relief. The captain is in the cockpit overseeing things, Roger explains to the commander apologetically. Otherwise, I'm sure she would ask you herself. But when do you think your cruiser will arrive? At last report, there was a cruiser en route from Mare Urba, the Iredian reports, about 2 days off. I see, Roger says resignedly. By any chance do you or any of your crew speak mere Urban? No, sir. Oh, and none of ours speak Aredian. Well, it seems you are stuck with me as your liaison then. Here's Larderson and Gatherdam with your rations. The two Mare Urbans look at him with wide eyes and ears back. Go on, Roger urges the two. Give them their food. The two virtually tremble as they distribute the gel in the water flasks. Once done, they hastily retreat to the aft end of the hold. Roger watches as the Aredians finish their meal with astonishing speed. How long have you been out of rations? He asks the commander. 4 days, sir. 4 days? Is that common for you to go without food that long? No, sir. We were not prepared for such a long sortie, the commander replies simply. I see. Roger turns to Lutterson again. Would you please be so kind as to fetch more nectar gel for our guests? The poor fellows haven't eaten in 4 days. Once again, Lutterson is more than eager to comply. You must be exhausted as well as hungry, Roger observes. We will withdraw and allow you to rest once you have finished your meal. For its part, Slither makes no remark, simply blinking once. Lutterson returns and quakes only a little less as he distributes the second helpings. Are there any other needs we can meet for you? Roger asks the commander after the nectar gel is gone. No, sir. You have been quite solicitous. We will leave you to your rest then. Roger turns to the Mare Urbans lurking in the back. Come, he beckons. Let's let them rest. The Mare Urbans all bolt past the Aredians, and as they do so, Roger asks in exasperation, What in the great tidal swell is wrong with you all? You all act as if the Aredians are about to eat you. Oh, that's just it, sir, Larderson explains sheepishly. They look like strikes on 2 legs. And the way they hiss when they talk, sir, it makes my hair stand on end. Well, they are civilized people and not wild animals. Get control of yourselves. They are going to be with us for 6 watches. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, they all mumble as they make their way to the cockpit. They find Forgedam just leaving. Burrowson and I have the rolling under control, so we can proceed to Mare Urba, although at a much slower velocity. Have our guests settled in? They are resting now, Roger reports. The commander, Slither is its name, says an Aredian cruiser is on the way from Mare Urba and should meet us in 2 days. Forgedam appears to slump a little. I don't like the idea of falling under the shadow of an Aredian cruiser, she says resignedly. But it's the best outcome to be hoped for. It will be another 40 days to Mare Urba at this rate. She turns to her crew. Lauderson, let you and I get what rest we can with what is left of this watch. Everyone else return to your duties and alert Mr. Admiral Roger if the Aredians get restless. Yes, ma'am, the crew replies in unison before dispersing. So that is the end of Chapter 6. And things certainly have become eventful. Tune in next week for Chapter 7. Thanks for listening.